Hello! In this video, we're going into the process of choosing a computer to make sure you get the most suitable one for you as an architect, student, designer, or anyone working in the creative industry. I'm going to talk about how architects use computers and their most common workflow, and what you should actually look for in a laptop. So let's get started. So the first question here, is it a laptop or a workstation? A quick answer here, if you're a student, just get a laptop and don't even bother going with a desktop, mainly because a laptop can replace a workstation but not the other way. Because you can use it for site visits, presentations, talks, meetings, and there's a high chance these days you're going to be working on a project remotely or at least hybrid. Also, in the last couple of years, laptops have become very powerful and much lighter. So you're not really sacrificing that much if you're going with a laptop. If you're a student or a new graduate, you need to explore and learn as much software as possible because you don't have a specific workflow yet. And these skills are going to be your strength getting into the industry and help you get hired. If you're working with a company, they'll provide you with a computer, a laptop, or workstation, or both. But if you're planning on taking some side projects or keep learning and developing your skills at your time, or maybe content creating, a really powerful laptop is essential here. This is the question that obligated philosophers tend to dawn with the time: Mac or Windows? Bottom line here, basically you can run your softwares on both. Even though most hardcore softwares like Revit, 3ds Max, Lumion are native and work best on Windows machines, you can run them on Macs on Parallels. But here's the trick. From my experience of using both, I can tell you it's not the system who's gonna affect your productivity. What will is if the system is lagging, slowing down, or keeps freezing while working. This gonna affect your productivity drastically. So it's personal preference which system you prefer to work with, as long as you make sure it's powerful enough. So how to choose? A general rule of thumb: Macs are more expensive than Windows machines, non-upgradable, especially now with the Apple Silicon chips, and the operating system and the ecosystem. So if you're using an iPhone, iPad, AirPods, it's much easier for you to work with Macs and transfer your files back and forth between your devices. For the available options, Macs are very limited and there are very few options to choose from, while with Windows machines there are tens of great machines from different manufacturers with a variety of qualities, prices, and designs. Since I started architecture, I've gotten used to loud laptops, especially during rendering when fans are working at their full power trying to cool down the laptop. But recently it became really annoying and distracting, especially in meetings and presentations and when working in a quiet environment like a library. Also, when I was recording videos, I had to turn it off completely because of the fan noise, until I got the M1 MacBook Air and then the M2 MacBook, which was the first laptop with serious power with no active cooling. It really was a turning point and made it hard for me to get back to noisy laptops. If this is something you worry about, you should consider getting a laptop with passive cooling, like the MacBook Air. For the CPU, I don't want to get into deep technical, not to confuse you here, like AMD, Intel, i5, i7, number of cores, the speed of chipsets, all of this. But bottom line here, for architectural work, you need to buy the fastest processor you can afford, and the more cores the better, of course. Also, not to get into details here, but in general some softwares use individual core like CAD drafting, and some uses multiple cores at the same time like rendering and video editing. So if you just need it for CAD drafting, you better go with the fastest CPU. If you're planning on doing both, it's better to go with more cores. For the graphics card, to be honest here, get the most recent that you can afford because there is a new model every year. The most common form factor for a laptop are these three: the 13-inch, the 15 to 16-inch, and the 17-inch. And choosing between them actually depends on how you work. So if you're mostly working from home or office or in the studio and you need the bigger display, versus you're always working on the go and you need the better battery life. So choosing the most portable one is not always the best choice. from my experience, 15 to 16 inches is great for most people because usually the 17 inch is really heavy if you're planning to get it out and about or you're always commuting between school and home or office and site. And the 14 inches and below can be really small if you're only using the laptop display and you don't have an external display. Another thing to look for is the pixel density, and this will affect how sharp the display is. The market standard are Full HD, Quad HD, and 4K. I prefer the Quad HD for the resolution for a few reasons, because the Full HD is not very sharp and the 4K is great, but on a smaller screen you really can't tell a big of a difference. And also it makes everything smaller on the screen. The icons, the tabs, and the text. Of course you can tweak that, but not everyone into this. And it will put more load on the graphics card. So the Quad HD in my opinion is the best choice. Something to consider: if you're going with Mac, you cannot choose the resolution of the laptop's display. They call it Retina display. It's not the standard resolution, but it's great and the colors are accurate. It's one of the best you can get on a laptop. So if you're getting a MacBook, you're covered in this area. There are two things to look for here: how much RAM do you need and how fast. 16 gigabytes of RAM are the minimum for the computer to perform well and to use different softwares at the same time. 32 gigabytes is recommended if you're going to use BIM softwares and rendering. And faster RAMs are always better, of course. And be sure it's upgradable in the future if you're choosing a Windows laptop. And for MacBooks, because they're not upgradable, you need to make your decision when you buy it. For me, I still use a combination of both systems. I use the Windows Workstation exclusively for heavy 3D modeling and rendering images and animations, and I use the Mac for everything else really. Because if you have an iPhone, iPad, or any Apple devices, it integrates seamlessly with Mac, and all your photos, data, music, and notes are synced automatically, and it's a huge time saver for me. Actually, I've been a Windows user most of my life, but I think lately I've been leaning toward the simpler way of doing things, and Macs and the Apple system makes it easier. Of course, you lose lots of customization and tweaking, but I found this to make me more focused on the tasks that I'm doing, because they just work. After all, workstation or laptop, Windows or Mac, it's just a tool to assist you doing the work. It won't make you a better architect if you use this or that. That's it for this video. Let me know in the comments what you think, and see you in the next video.